Hello folks, welcome back to the Dung Spreader channel, and as Monty Python was wont to say, now for something completely different. So today we're not going to be talking about black powder muzzle loading rifles. We're going to be talking about a smokeless powder centerfire rifle. To wit, my bush rifle. So let's have a look at her. First things first. The action is open, chamber's clear, this gun's safe. So what have we got here? Well, we've got a Lee Enfield number 4 Mark 1, built at the Fazakli factory during the Second World War, and it had a factory thorough repair shortly after the war, late 40s, early 50s, can't quite remember because the date is underneath the scope mount. So why pick an Enfield? Well, reputation, they've been around a long time, relatively cheap, ammunition is cheap and easy to find, and let's take a closer look. I bought her quite a few years ago now at a gun show. She'd already been butchered, somebody had hacked off a few inches at the end of the barrel. Fitted a commercial ramp on the front. I replaced it with the service front sight protector. Underneath the barrel there's the word Surrey. It's been engraved or stamped, and I conclude from that it was a commercial sporter. This wasn't your regular bobbered rifle. This was done commercially by a company in Canada, and they marked their guns Surrey, Sussex, Essex, names of English counties with regard to the grade of rifle, and I believe Surrey was the lowest grade, where the fewest modifications have been done to the gun. You'll notice she has a scope on her, and the scope is not essential for a bush rifle. It depends on the kind of bush you're operating in. I also carry this rifle on the tractor sometimes, and if I have to take a long shot, 200 or 300 yards at live quarry, well, I prefer to use the scope for the better visibility and slightly better accuracy. But this is a QD scope. It has a QD mount, and the mount is made by CAD Technic. And this is one of the first QD mounts that were available on the market that I could find at the time. I've had it about 12 years, I think. There were a couple of other scope mounts that were readily available, both made out of aluminium. I wasn't superbly impressed with them, but this I thought was quite intriguing. And to take it off, you take these two screws out. Ordinarily they'd be a bit tighter than that, but for the sake of demonstration I'll back them off a bit. So you can take the scope off very quickly. If you noticed, there is a milled area there, which corresponds to the milled area on the rifle. So this can be replaced without losing zero. Another good feature is it picks up on 2 screws on the rifle, on the rear safety here, and at the front, the ejector screw. So you don't have to carve your rifle up. You can fit this, and if you don't like it, you can take it off and the rifle return to standard with not a mark on it. Another good thing, you can have the scope mounted, and then when you remove it, you can use the standard issue sight. In this case it's a Singer mill sight. So why would you want to take the scope off? Well, hunting in foul weather, heavy rain, wet snow, you can get the lenses of your scope wet, and there's nothing worse than wet snow on the lenses of the scope. It takes a long time to get it off and dry it and mess around, and if you're in heavy timber you might as well just take the scope off, put it in your pack and carry on hunting with the optical sight. Use it as a ghost ring. Obviously there is no windage adjustment on it. You'd have to adjust your windage on the front side and drive the front blade one way or the other, and choose the right height of blade to work with this go string. Not a big problem, but something you want to spend an afternoon doing so that you know where your bullets are going. So, why is this a good bush rifle? Well, the reason it's a good bush rifle is the same reason that it's a damn good battle rifle, because of its own peculiar operating system. It's a rear locking bolt. These are the lugs on the bolt, and when you push it forward, they engage with some lugs in the receiver, right there, if you can see, one on the other side. And the advantage that gives us is we don't have to lift the bolt up so high. On a Mauser type, you'd have to lift the bolt 90 degrees. This you don't, because the lugs aren't quite so wide. The bolt is shorter, so when you extract around, you don't have to pull the bolt back so far. This bolt is the bolt head is completely unencumbered. A lot of daylight around it. Compared to a Mauser type, this is a Mauser type bolt. That's a 303 snap cap in the inert round. Now, for this to work, it has to push the round in, right into the barrel, and then the bolt has to rotate and engage with with recesses inside the barrel. So, for that to work, everything's got to be clean. And if you can imagine using this in freezing weather, and this was warm, or somehow picked up some moisture, went in there, closed, wasn't used for a couple of hours, could freeze solid, and then you'd have a bugger of a job to open the action. Also, if you got muck in there, could also bind on some muck. Whereas the Enfield bolt, there's nothing on the end. There's nothing there. All it does is push the round in, pushes in the round, and then that just rests on there. It just stops it from coming out. So if there's any gunge, it can squeeze out the side, it can go up the gas hole, come out the bottom, anyway. And we have a tapered round. Most other rounds are parallel-sided rounds. This is tapered, it's like a wedge. So as soon as the extractor grabs it, moves it back a fraction, it's free. It will come out the rest of the way because there's nothing obstructing it. Where the parallel-sided round in a dirty chamber could expand against the crud and would be a hell of a job to pull out. You'd have to pull it all the way, and it would gouge a groove all the way down before it came out. So this works in adverse conditions better than a parallel-sided round. Another thing, the Mauser is controlled action, or controlled round feed, should I say. So this long extractor picks up the cartridge from the magazine and feeds it. But you have to bring the bolt all the way back to pick up that round. With an Enfield you don't. Although it does pick up the rim of the cartridge from the magazine, so it is controlled round feeding. You can also throw a round in, an odd round in, slam the bolt shut, because the extractor will ride over the rim of the bolt, the cartridge. If you do that with a Mauser, it'll jam. So this has got a hell of a lot going for it. May not be the ideal system for accuracy, but if what I'm led to believe is correct, a number 4 rifle was expected to produce a 2-inch group at 100 yards, which is 2 minutes of angle, and that is not bad when you consider it was done with standard service sights. If you can shoot 2 minutes of angle in a game situation, when you're hunting for game or protecting yourself from a predator, it's good enough. So there we have it. To sum up, the reasons why it's such a good, reliable rifle is because of the developments over time that were put into this rifle. It wasn't born a brilliant rifle, but it developed into a magnificent rifle. First incarnation of a Lee rifle was the Remington Lee in the States, because Lee actually used to work for Remington, James Paris Lee, originally born in Scotland. The British Army adopted the rifle in 1888 as the Lee Metford, which had Metford rifling for black powder, and then that, as black powder went out of fashion and cordite or smokeless powder came in, became the Lee Enfield. So Lee refers to the action, the box magazine, rear locking bolt, and the charger. You have a 5-round charger would go in here in a service rifle. And the Enfield refers to the type of rifling in the barrel. Also, they were made at the Royal Small Arms Factory, Enfield, but during the World Wars there were other companies that made them. Like I said, this was made at the Fazakerley factory. During the Second World War, she had a factory thorough repair in the late 1940s, early 50s. 5-groove barrel. Canadian rifles mostly have a 2-groove barrel. There's not a lot of difference in accuracy, both are good. So there we are. That is my bush rifle. What else can I talk about? Oh yeah, magazine. Like I was saying earlier, scout rifles are coming into the fore. You hear about them all the time. Scout rifle is a shorter rifle, probably not quite carbine length. Has a 10-round magazine, bolt action, and a forward mounted scope. And this rifle fits most of those except for the 4-mounted scope, but you can buy them for Enfields, but I haven't seen one in the flesh, so until I do I'm not tempted to try it, but I will try it if I think it's worthwhile. But the 10-round mag, 10-round single stack mag is quite big, and it makes the rifle quite unwieldy, or a scout rifle quite unwieldy. Where the original Lee Enfield had double stack mag, and it fits quite compact, not quite flush. You can buy, if you can find them, you can find a 5-round mag which fits almost flush here. I like the 10. I put 6 in the 10 because I don't want to strain the mainspring in here. If I can't take care of the trouble with 6 rounds, then I'd probably better not go out in the bush anyway. But it's handy because you can store this separate from the gun. When you take the gun out to use it, you collect the gun from one place, collect your ammunition from your ammunition place. Put this in your pocket, drive down the road. Gun is not loaded, no magazine, perfectly legal. This is in your pocket, out of sight, or locked away in the truck. You're good to go. That's a good feature. I have another scope mount here. If you don't want a QD scope, then you can fit something like this. It's a steel mount. It has a wedge on the bottom there that fits in the charger bridge here, and then the back 2 screw holes fit where the sight would normally fit there. So you can't use the issue sight with this. You have to take that off. And this is very strong. It fits lower, so you probably wouldn't need a cheek piece here, and works very, very well. I had this fitted on another rifle for quite some time and never had any problems with it. If you find yourself in a situation where you have to take this off, as long as you have these 2 tools with you, you can do it in a few minutes, and then you can fit the military sights. You can either go with a mil sight, or you can go with a simple flip over battle sight, the 300, 600 yard one. And if you want to, you can fill these holes in, drill new holes, and sight your rifle in for whatever range you want, 100 yards, 200 yards, or less even. you need somewhere to carry them, you can hollow out the end of the stock here, make a little compartment, put them in there, wrapped in an oily rag. Then as long as you have a screwdriver or a Leatherman or something, you can take off the butt plate. This is a plastic stock, an ATI plastic stock that I had. Had this on a rifle for a while, and this is hollow. There's a huge area there that you can put all kinds of stuff in. You can put your spare sights in, put a few rounds of ammunition in, some paracord, fish hooks, compass, any of your survival stuff, whatever you want. You can get a lot of stuff in there. It does make it heavy, but as long as you've got the rifle with you, you got all the stuff you need. As long as you've got a screwdriver to take the butt plate off, good to go. Nobody even knows what's in there. So there we are. Here is my bush rifle. Nothing fancy, does the job, and will probably do the job for another 50 years. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Look after yourselves, take care of one another, enjoy your shooting, that's important. See you next time. Goodbye.